I was on stage at my music school, and I was attempting to play the song Lenny by Stevie Ray Vaughan on electric guitar, the same guitar, actually. This was years before I ever started playing harmonica. And I really needed to get this right. This was actually my third attempt at playing this song. Week after week, I would try it, and I would crash and burn. But I had practiced it for many, many hours. And I was like, okay, I got it this time. I know that I'm going to be able to pull it off. And I go up on stage and I play the first few chords. And I'm like, yeah, I got it. And the beginning sounds good. And I feel like I'm finding my groove. And then I get to the solo. And there was this one part in the solo that I just couldn't transition to. And I was like, I know that I could do this. And I played that part and I failed. It was bad. It was bad. And I did the worst thing a musician can really do when they're performing is I froze. I stopped. The music ended. I looked out into the audience. In the audience was one of my favorite music teachers, a woman named Jean. She was phenomenal. And my friends, my enemies, and even a potential romantic interest. And these people had all seen me fail for the third week in a row. I clenched my fists. I was sweating. The lights were blinding me. And I left the stage dejected. The thing is, I needed to get this song together because I was playing it in a recital in like 4 weeks. And I had one more week to get it right on this stage before I started rehearsing with a blues trio that I was going to be playing with. And it wasn't working. And I didn't know what to do. And so I went back to my practice room and I knew that I needed to do something different. Like I've found over the years that when I'm struggling with something that's hard and I feel like I'm not making progress, the best thing to do is to just do something different and then return to that problem later on. Maybe you'll learn something, maybe your brain will subconsciously process things and it'll just get better. So that's what I did. And I grabbed an acoustic guitar. I was more of an acoustic guitarist these days. Maybe that's why I was struggling with this song, but I was trying to learn how to play the song Ocean by John Butler. This is probably my favorite acoustic guitar song, and if you want to take a listen to it, I'll put a link down in the description. And it's intense. It's really, really hard, and I wanted to learn it so badly, but I didn't know what was going on. There were no tabs for this song, which is something that happens a lot on harmonica, right? You want to learn something and no one has tabbed it out, or if they did tab it out, it's not very good. Well, that was kind of the situation for this song. It was relatively early after he released it, and no one had worked it out online, but I knew that I wanted to learn it. I just loved it so much, and I knew that I wanted to learn it. But there was a couple parts in there that, despite my best efforts, I could not figure them out. And I had a guitar lesson in a few hours, and so I was like, okay, I'm not gonna focus on Lenny. I've done it too much. I'm driving this into the ground. Let me do this song, Ocean. Okay, and so I brought it to this guitar teacher who was actually a new teacher to me. You know, different teachers teach you different things, right? Like my last guitar teacher had been really deep with scales and, you know, playing chord rhythms, and he was really good at certain things. But every new teacher brings something new to the table because we all have different life experiences, right? And this guy, I played this part of Ocean to him, and he was like, honestly, this is really hard. I don't know how to play it, so let's figure it out. And so he did something that was new to me. He opened up his laptop and he opened a transcription program, which is a program that lets you slow audio down, okay? And I knew this was a thing that people did, but I had never really done it for myself, or I never really gave it an honest, fair shot, because I didn't feel like I needed it. I mean, I spent most of my time like improvising and stuff, but if I wanted to learn something specific, I would just kind of, you know, approach it on my own. I'd slow it down in the ways that I was comfortable doing. And I didn't need this technology. It's kind of whatever, right? But he put this on, and he slowed it down to like 30% or something like that. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be a long lesson. And so we go through it, and I'm like, oh, I can actually hear the different strings he's playing if we slow it down this slow. And it really did have to be that slow, but I was like, oh, I can actually hear this now. And so got out a piece of tab paper, and he just sat with me for an hour very patiently, and we worked one of the most difficult parts in that song out, where there was like a lot of there was double hand tapping, okay, and it was really hard. And it was also in an open tuning, which adds to the complexity because it wasn't something I was used to. But anyways, I figured this part out, and I was actually kind of amazed. Not only did it help me to find out all of the initial notes, but it also helped me to get it up to speed, because once we had that section down, he put it into some sort of a training mode where it would go really slow and then it would gradually increase. And then by the end of that lesson, I was playing this part that seemed completely impossible to me. Before I started, I was playing it flawlessly. And I was like, wow, this is such a breakthrough. And I was like, I got to figure out how to do this on my own. Like, I got to. And so I got the program myself, and I figured out how to do it. I figured out how to use all the different functions. And, technology is pretty hard. If you're watching this and you're learning music later in life, you might need some help with the technology. But I had some help, and I also help people with that these days. But anyways, I applied it to Lenny, and I focused on the spot in the solo that I just could not do. It was constantly there as a barrier for me that I wasn't able to pass. And I started playing it, and then it started coming together a lot more. Even though I already knew all the notes, now I was able to actually practice these transitions and the parts that were really screwing me up. So I did this for days, and I really just figured this out. I really leaned into the use of this technology and the use of this kind of practice. And, I had known I needed to slow stuff down before, but using the software was actually a game changer for me. And so I did this, and I go back on stage a couple days later to give this one more shot. And I really needed to do this because, again, I had a recital, okay? I needed to have this together before working with the other people in my group. And I go on stage, and I'm nervous, I'm sweating, I'm like, oh, I hope this doesn't go the way that it did the last 3 weeks, and I can't see these people watch me fail again. I just can't do it. I couldn't bear it. And so I go up on stage, I play the first chord, and then it was like I slipped into a dream. I don't even remember playing, honestly. It was like the music was just coming through me, like I had tapped into this internal river of music, and I just sunk in. And I get through the whole song, and I got a standing ovation. It never happened up until that point, and I'm like, wow, I did it. I did it. And it just taught me that if something was hard in music, and a lot of things are hard in music, a lot of things, but if something was hard, then I needed to make it easy. And this is a lesson I apply in so many different ways in life, but if you can't hear something, if you can't hear the way that something is working, how can you learn it? If you can't sing it back, how could you play it? I mean, it seems obvious, but if you are just trying to jump in to learn something and it's above your level and you're having problems, you got to find those specific problems and you got to work them out. And sometimes you just need a bit of a hand. That could be a teacher, but it also could just be a piece of software that lets you slow down the music and loop the parts that you're having difficulty with. You got to make it easy for yourself. You got to be able to hear things. You got to use this technology to really help you. And years later, when I was playing harmonica, I was also struggling, probably like you maybe right now as well. I was doing probably the same things that you are. I was taking some people's courses and programs. I was watching YouTube videos, and you know what? I gotta tell you, I had a hard time. I had a harder time than I did when I was learning the guitar in a lot of ways. And it was kind of perplexing to me because I had all this background in music. And like, even with that background, I was still struggling. And then I remembered this one day I had with my guitar teacher where he helped me work through this really difficult part of a song. And I was like, I need to see what this is like with harmonica playing. And so I learned one of the hardest tunes that I could play, and I loaded it up into the program, and I was just patient, and it took some time, and I tabbed out the whole thing using this program. And let me tell you, I don't know if you've ever had this experience or not, if you want to learn something that's above your level, okay, something that to you is significantly harder, then once you go through that process and you actually learn it and you actually figure it out, you're at that higher level now. Maybe not just as high as the person who originally played it, but man, you make a big step up. And if you've been playing harmonica for a while, or any instrument really, and you feel like it's been a while since you made a big step up, then you need to really do what I did. Find something hard to learn, something above your skill level, something that will push you as a musician. And you need to find a way to make that process easy. And the way that I recommend is to use a transcription program. In a practical sense, you can use the program AnyTune, which is available on all devices except PC. And for PC users, I recommend Transcribe. And I'll put links to these down below in the description. And you just got to figure the technology out, okay? It's not going to be super easy. There's a lot of different functions, but you just got to go through the process. And in my paid programs, with my course, Blues Harp Success, and my harmonica scale training app, Harp Trainer, I make this easy for you because I understand not everybody can do the technology side of this. It is hard. So for all of these programs that I have, every song, every riff, I break them all down into small chunks, and I have those different sections available at multiple speeds. So you can have the same experience that I did when I was using these programs without all the hassle of setting it up. If you're interested, I'll put the links down to my programs down in the description. But what I want you to take away from this is that you got to slow music down if you're having trouble with it. And it's anything, it's everything. You got to slow scales down. You got to slow riffs down. You got to slow songs down. You need to slow down. If you approach things too fast, you're going to fail and you're gonna feel bad and it's gonna be demotivating, but you didn't set yourself up to succeed in the first place. There are tools available out there that will help you, and you really owe it to yourself to learn how to use them. And if you want to learn how to use AnyTune, which is the program that I recommend these days, then watch this video up here. In that video, I will show you how I use the AnyTune app on an iPad, and this is available on a bunch of different platforms. So the iPad version interface might be a little bit different, but you'll understand the basics, and then just try this on your own, and you'll find that your playing skills will skyrocket once you figure out the simple trick of slowing music down, looping it so you can match up with it, and then speeding it up to a place where it actually sounds good. And once you do that, you can just go up level to level to level. So that's all I have for you today. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you next week.